AOC AG271QG is not a new monitor. However, it's a monitor I felt I should look at because right now it's probably the best all-round 27-inch gaming monitor you can buy. Now its spec list is nothing we haven't seen before. It has a 2560x1440 resolution, an IPS LCD panel, it can refresh it up to 165 Hz, it has a 4 millisecond grade-to-grade response time, and it has G-Sync. It's simply AOC's equivalent of the hugely popular Acer XB271HU and Asus PG279Q. Crucially though, at least here in the UK, it's consistently cheaper than both those displays, and in some ways it's better too. First things first though, the design, and the obvious thing you miss out on here is a low profile bezel, which does affect its desk appeal, but the bezel is still reasonably narrow and it potentially has some benefits too. You see, one of the chief complaints about the Acer XB271HU and particularly the Asus PG279Q is that they can suffer from backlight bleed. Mainly this is just down to the LCD panel used, and all three monitors use the same panel. But the type of bezel can affect things too. Displays with low profile bezels tend to be more prone to backlight bleed, as there's simply less material to protect and stabilise the edge of the panel. Now, I've only seen this one sample of the AG271QG, so can't speak categorically about the quality control of this monitor, but what I can say is that the backlight bleed on this particular sample is minimal, with just a hint of it in the bottom right corner. It's also worth noting that what you see right now isn't backlight bleed but IPS glow, and it affects all IPS displays. It's simply the compromise of this LCD panel technology. For comparison, here is a TN and a VA display, so you can get a sense of their relative black levels and light bleed. But back to the AG271QG, and while the presence of a thicker bezel can be forgiven, what can't be is the choice of a brushed effect to the bottom bezel and the rather cheap looking painted on Agon logo. Thankfully, the stand pulls things right back thanks to its simple shape and solid metal build. As for around the back, the red may not be for everyone, but at least all the plastics have a tough matte finish and there's nothing too outlandish. All in all, when it comes to design, none of these three monitors is perfect, but I think the Asus takes top spot, the AOC second and Acer third. Moving on to more practical considerations, the stand offers 130mm of height adjustment, plus rotation, pivot and tilt, so it's easy to get this display positioned how you like and get any cables plugged in. There's also the option to attach an alternative stand via the VESA mounting point. Speaking of cables, the selection of connections on this monitor is one of its standout features. For video inputs, it's the usual DisplayPort and HDMI, so nothing exciting there, but when it comes to extras, the AG271QG stands alone among its peers. For a start, its USB 3 hub has 4 ports, with 2 on the back and 2 on the side. Then above the USB ports is a headphone jack plus a microphone pass-through, so you can fully connect your headset via the monitor. Although it should be noted that the sound quality from both ports isn't great and you won't get any fancy surround sound or noise cancelling, but if you're only working with basic onboard audio anyway, it's a useful extra. There's also built-in speakers. They're basic but useful to have. Meanwhile, finishing off the features on the side is AOC's always welcome flip-down headphone stand. Less of a welcome feature is this display's on-screen menu. AOC's control system is just not very intuitive, and although I've used enough AOC monitors now that I've got used to them, if you're only using it occasionally, it'll nearly always catch you out. It just makes no sense that left is down. Otherwise, the OSD offers everything you need and the layout is reasonably intuitive, so you can quickly tweak basics like brightness and contrast, fine-tune the colour balance, and adjust the two crucial gaming settings which are overdrive and overclock. Overdrive is just a standard LCD overdrive setting that aims to improve the responsiveness of the display, but at the expense of introducing the corona effect. Here, the default medium setting offers a good balance, though there's a surprisingly noticeable boost by opting for the strong overdrive setting. There's not too much of a hit to image quality either, so that's the option that I settled on for gaming. Meanwhile, the overclock setting is for boosting the maximum refresh rate from 144Hz to 165. Unlike with some displays, this doesn't affect image quality, so there's no reason not to do it, though the difference in gaming performance between the two is subtle enough that it's certainly not necessary. And while we're on the subject of gaming, this display is superb at it. The 4 millisecond response time is noticeable compared to 1 millisecond TN displays, so for the very most elite it's still a clear choice. But this is still a snappy, responsive enough monitor that is ample for competitive online gaming, for instance. Then of course there's the main reason you'd want to pick up an IPS display over TN or VA, and that's the fantastic image quality. For a start, viewing angles are excellent with no obvious changes in colour or brightness no matter what angle you view the screen from, IPS glow aside. Elsewhere, colour accuracy is excellent right out of the box, with 99.4% sRGB coverage and a delta E of just 0.32. Contrast is also impressive, as often IPS displays can't push past 1000 to 1. Even gamma is perfect, while the colour temperature is pretty close to ideal as well. Or at least so it seems. While on paper the colour temperature is close, there's more of a noticeable green tinge to the default warm colour setting than you'd expect. This can be easily corrected by switching to the user colour setting and adjusting the RGB values, but without a colorimeter to check things as you go, it can be difficult to perfectly dial this in. Nearly all monitors benefit from a degree of colour balance tweaking, including the PG279Q for instance, but notably the Acer XB271HU that I reviewed was perfect right out of the box. But how typical this is for that monitor, I can't say. Wrapping things up then, this is a fantastic monitor, and at current UK prices, it's the one out of the three that I'd get, as it's simply the cheapest yet has the most features. However, they're all similar enough that whichever one is cheapest where you are is probably the one to go for.